So, welcome to Meet the Candidate. I have today Judge Dave Larson, who is running for Supreme Court Justice position number 5, and I'm glad you could make time to join me today, Dave.
I'm glad you're making time to have me on. I appreciate it.
It's a long assignment. So, the format here just some casual conversation, but I will hold the last minute or two for you to give your pitch on why you're best choice for this position. But first, I want to start with some things that I pulled out of your voters pamphlet. And one of them is first work experience. I find that's a really interesting question to discuss with people. How did you first make the connection between I'm doing work and I'm getting paid?
Oh, there you go. Mean ever?
Ever. Yeah,
Okay,
first
well,
ever.
my first job ever was picking up litter on the freeway, and it wasn't part of a work crew program. So no, I was paid $2.10 an hour to. It was called Weekend Warriors. The Department of Transportation back when I was in high school had a program. That was my first job. My second job was dishwasher at Northwest Airlines, part of a summer program. My dad was a mechanic, and I delivered pizza and um, loaded airplanes with food, driving those galley trucks
Oh
and all
yeah.
kinds of stuff as I worked through college. Even was a process server serving child support papers for the state of Washington, the Office of Support Enforcement. My senior year, I did that because I worked and I went to college at the same time.
So what's something you learned from all that work experience?
Well, whenever I talk to youth, I said I didn't wake up one day and become a judge, right? I talk about that first job, and every job was a stepping stone for the next, building references, experience, responsibility, all those things. That every one of those was a stepping stone to the next one. And and don't feel afraid to start at the bottom. And I don't think you can get much lower than picking up litter on the freeway,
For
but the
$2.10 an hour.
yeah, yeah, and the but ultimately, I think every one of those jobs, plus witnessing my father and mother and their work ethic. My mom was a homemaker, but there's work ethic involving homemaking too. But seeing their work ethic and seeing how important it is to our own esteem and our sense of purpose, I think
Yeah.
was important to me.
So I have an education question. I'm going to ask you about a college freshman memory.
Oh, um, well, I lived on campus. So my first semester, I was at PLU and then I transferred EPS, and that was interesting. But I started in pre med, and I remember going into class the first day because I didn't take a lot of science in high school, and I went to my chemistry class, and I said, "What?" And I remember that feeling of what did I get myself into? But I lost my academic scholarship because my GPA was low enough because I really didn't prepare. My son, ironically, my youngest son, is now a physician because I used that experience to make sure he took, because he wanted to do that he took every science course he could in high school. So now he's a physician because of my failure. But and his, put it this way, he put a lot of effort into it.
Right.
But but yeah, that's what I remember. That first day going into chemistry and just feeling like, oh my god, and getting through that first semester and realizing that I'm not cut out for that. I'm not, my mind isn't tuned for chemistry and biology and all that stuff is, yeah,
Yeah,
big deal.
we learn a lot about ourselves when we head off to
Yeah,
college.
yeah.
So I've also been asking candidates about a book that they've read recently. Not necessarily because you had to for work, but just because it was interesting or some other reason.
Well, I read for a living, so I didn't really spend a lot of time reading books. The I got the Jefferson Bible because I was curious because I heard about it, so I read that, and that's been a little while ago. I mean, basically, that's honestly the last one I looked at because I was just curious about what he did and why he did it
Hmm.
in terms of separating out, just the teachings of Christ and that type of thing. And it's been a while since I read that, but but yeah, it's something I like writing. I write uh, more than I read.
Yeah. Well, and when you read for a job, it is
Yeah, you
that's
want to
interesting though.
break.
I never thought about looking up the Jefferson Bible. I knew that he had made alterations and all, but I'd never thought about
Yeah,
looking that up. Hmm.
yeah. He took the just the teachings of Christ and out and put it in his own.
Hmm.
Anyway, that's what he did.
Interesting. Interesting. So how about movies? Is there a movie that has caught your attention that sticks with you? Something you quote
Well,
to
it sticks
people?
with me. I think Field of Dreams. That's the one
Hmm.
that the end. Even though my relationship with my father was really good, my relationship with my sons is they're my best friends. Still, I can't watch. I mean, I don't know how many times I've seen the end of it, and I still well up, want to have a catch, because that movie is
Yeah.
it's probably my favorite of all time because of that. I mean, it's just that because my sons are very important to me, and I was very important to or my father was very important to me, and I was important to him too. So I think that bond, um, and my son, both of my sons have sons now, and they're gonna and daughters. I never had a daughter, and my dad never had a daughter. But although there is a story on my website about my sister Catherine, who was stillborn, if people want to know more about that. But yeah, that movie, it probably
Mm.
sticks with me of all of them. There's others too, but that one is the one that most because I miss my dad. Just a second, I'm gonna grab. I'll be right back. I keep this in my office. It's my dad's lunch pail from he was a
Oh,
mechanic for Northwest Airlines,
oh,
and so I keep that in my office, kind of keep me grounded. Uh, you know, so that's very important.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
to
Those
maintain
ties.
because it's our heritage. That work ethic he had. I mean, I remember when I was 12 years old. In fact, I wrote about it in the local paper. I had a column in the local paper years ago, 1970, when they were on strike for 6 months, and seeing you know the resiliency and everything else that yeah, it's just that I was very ashamed at the time because we were on free and reduced lunch, and I didn't eat lunch in seventh grade. I was out selling firewood and pouring patios and sidewalks with him when I was 12 just to make the house payment. And
Mhm.
at the time, it's kind of there's shame. Like I said, I didn't back then. People knew we were on free and reduced lunch because you had to produce it. So I didn't eat lunch my entire seventh grade year. But looking back and see how proud I was of him and my mother. My mother took a job at the local elementary as a cashier for school lunch, and she was didn't they were doing care packages, and here for folks that were poor, and here the principal shows up at our door with one of the care packages she put together because we were having a hard time
Yeah,
because there was no income coming in the house for 6 months.
yeah, yeah. That's a seventh grade. That's a pretty impressionable age to.
Yeah, yeah, but again, ultimately, it had everything that's ever been like that's happened has made me who I am. I mean, at the time, it seems kind of hard to get through, but everything, it's like building muscle. It helps you become better.
Okay. Well, that's a good place to lead into. Here's your opportunity to explain to people why you believe you are the best or the best candidate for Supreme Court Justice position number 5.
Well, I mean, we just put out a mailer, and my campaign, we did a comparison chart, and there's a column that has years of experience as a judge, years of running a court, years teaching judges at judicial college, years working with the legislature to improve courts, and mine is 18 years of being a judge, 16 years of running a court, 17 years of working with the legislature on both sides of the aisle in trusting relationships to improve courts, 10 years teaching judges. And then there's a lot of red X's in the other columns for they've never been a judge. Um, and one has been a judge, but for 6 years to my 18 years. And then the ratings by lawyers are significantly different in terms of
Mhm.
the quality. And so, but I think what makes me stand out is my desire to make the court system work for people. And that's what each time I run, that's what I wanted. And you can tell when we go into different debates that they talk about as if this is the way it'll always be. And I have a vision for how we can make our court system better, especially in the area of criminal law, family law. I've been recognized nationwide for my reforms. If people go on my Facebook page, Judge Dave Larson for Supreme Court, they'll see the most recent edition of a 10-part series on my life on what I've done in the courts, anywhere from laws affecting domestic violence to addiction, mental illness. And right now, the Supreme Court, in the trial courts, we were struggling, and still are. And the Supreme Court's kind of been silent. In fact, in a lot of cases, make things worse. I just got the President's Award from the District and Municipal Court Judges Association for the second time just a month ago. And the consensus that evening, the evening before I got the award, was that the Supreme Court's out of touch with trial courts, and so we need trial court judge. There's only two left on the court,
Hmm.
and I think I fit that bill. And I think the other candidates are really attuned to kind of like I said, that their campaigns are kind of directed to lawyers and judges, and
Hmm.
mine's directed to the people. And if anybody spends time with my campaign statement, with my TVW video, with any of the commercials I'm doing, anything on social media, you'll see that's the case. That it's for me, it's a I'm running out of sense of duty to the public. Actually retired at the end of 2025. I'm not doing this for me, and I think that and my sense of public service and what it means. I think that that's what I hope the people will want in office. And if I have time, I could tell a story about how I view public office. If you want me
I'm
to.
happy to give you the time to tell a story.
Sure, sure. Well, I'm very involved in civics education, and I've gotten awards for that too. And in a variety of ways, I've been involved in civics education. I was with some students along with some other elected officials, and one of the students asked, "When did you feel closest to your position?" And each of the other elected officials talked about something they did in their official capacity. When it got to me, I said I was in the back of the line at a chili cook-off. And this person came up to me and spoke to me and said, called me judge because they knew me. And then they left. Person behind me says, "Hey, you're a judge, just cut up in front of the line." And I said, "Actually, when I don't have my robot, I'm like anybody else." And I told the students, the reason I told you that story is my position is that of citizen, just like anybody. I play a role as a judge. It's a responsibility, not a power. I'm a servant, not a master. And the reason we're having trouble now, and where I mentioned that we're so interested in getting our way, we've lost our way, is our form of government's designed for people that want to pursue duty and responsibility, not power and control. And we've deceived ourselves into thinking that it's about power and control. And that's why we're having these problems. And so putting me on the bench, it's not going to just hopefully influence the trust and confidence in the judiciary, but government in general. Because anytime I have an opportunity, I'm going to be trying to get people and especially in elected office to understand that that's what people really want in their elected officials. They don't want to have to worry about what government's doing. They want to be able to trust that they're looking out for the people and then not looking out for government itself.
Okay. It's a good place to close. I am involved in this as well because I believe that it's a public service and that voters have a responsibility to make themselves aware of all of the, especially now, all the resources available to learn about the candidates. We can all be responsible voters. So thank you for joining me in my attempt to create more responsible voters.
I appreciate
And
it. And that's the other thing I've done too is I've written legislation to make judicial elections more understandable, to create the
mhm.
Judicial Elections Commission. And and my website's larsonforjustice.com if everybody wants to learn more
Okay.
about me.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you
I
very much.
appreciate it.
All
Thanks.
right.
Thanks.
Mhm.
Bye.
Bye.